Over the next decade, both China and the United States are looking to secure their position as the leader of the Asia-Pacific region. However, the United States has come to the party too late, is offering too little, and quite frankly, we're expecting too much. China is the economic powerhouse of Asia and is the key member in the region's three most important trade agreements. In contrast, the United States is not a member in a single one of them. These factors will make America's bid to overthrow China's influence in the region very difficult, and as we've seen with the Solomon Islands, more nations are going to be choosing to work with China. Let's break it down in today's video. Last week, Joe Biden returned from Asia where he spent time drumming up support for the US and letting Southeast Asian leaders know the US is committed to the region. To do so, Joe Biden agreed to spend more money on infrastructure, security, and other efforts aimed at countering the influence of China. Unfortunately, the 10-member nations of ASEAN, that's the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, were left scratching their heads when Joe Biden revealed the sum of money the United States was committing, a mere $150 million that must be split amongst 10 countries. It doesn't make America look very strong when China pledged a whopping $1.5 billion last November to these same 10 nations. Does America even have a chance of overtaking China as the dominant regional player? History shows us it's unlikely. China has been the dominant player in this game for nearly 3 decades, offering huge economic support and access to the powerful Chinese marketplace. In contrast, the United States' pitch to Southeast Asia is overwhelmingly military. Economic support is simply an afterthought. Let me give you a clear example. Of the $150 million that Joe Biden has proposed, over 40% of that will be allocated to the U.S. Coast Guard activities in the South China Sea. Essentially, the United States is just pledging to spend more money on sending American warships to the region to keep peace. However, more American warships in the region most likely is only going to raise tensions, trigger an arms buildup, and most likely will increase the chances of miscalculation. This is a major concern and shows us how little the United States understands what is truly needed in Southeast Asia at this time. After a 2-year pandemic where every economy around the world is hurting, Southeast Asia doesn't need military support. They need economic support, and this is where China dominates. When China pledged its $1.5 billion last year, it promised to help fight health contagion and fuel economic recovery over the next 3 years for these 10 nations. Now, one of the major beneficiaries of China's care has been the Philippines, who have already received over $500 million in donations and grants from China from 2016 to 2021. From the $150 million that Joe Biden has pledged, only $40 million is going to go towards infrastructure projects. And once again, don't forget this needs to be split amongst 10 countries. Somebody please tell me, what major infrastructure project can a nation build for a measly $4 million? To put things in perspective, under the Belt and Road Initiative, China funded a high-speed railway in Laos, which opened last December and is worth around $6 billion alone. In addition, China has launched billions of dollars worth of major infrastructure and development projects across the Southeast Asia, including in the Philippines, Brunei, Cambodia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and Myanmar, which are all member nations of the Belt and Road Initiative. Now, there is no guarantee that all of these proposed projects from China will be successful, but many projects like the Laos Railway have been a huge success, and even if some of the projects don't pan out the way they were envisioned, China is years ahead of what the United States could even begin of dreaming of doing in the region. Everyone, today's video is important because we're discussing the future of the global economy, and China and America are the key drivers of the world economy. The United States is battling high inflation, rising fuel costs, and a potential recession, while China is still dealing with a pandemic which has paralyzed Shanghai, the country's most important investing hub, these past 2 months. Every week, I receive questions from fans regarding investing and potential opportunities in the market, and I want to take a moment and introduce you to an alternative investment company, Masterworks. Masterworks.io allows individuals to buy shares in some of the world's most famous art pieces, exactly like you would purchase a share of Tesla or Apple stock. From 1995 to 2021, the fine art market has outpaced the S&P by 165%. And most recently, the art market just saw record-breaking auction numbers, with the sale of Andy Warhol's Shot Sage Blue Marilyn for a whopping $195 million. So far, Masterworks has sold 3 paintings, each returning over 30% net IRR to investors. Of course, past performance is no indication of future results, but 30% is impressive nonetheless. Everyone, I've really enjoyed working with Masterworks and I can highly recommend this product to my followers. If you are interested in doing your due diligence and learning more about art investment, and if you would like to see if this would be a good addition to your portfolio, please go to masterworks.art/Cyrus or click the link in the description below. As I mentioned at the start of this video, the United States is coming into the region too late, offering too little, and expecting too much. Now don't get me wrong, the United States is building its presence in Asia. Let's not forget the AUKUS military alliance the United States signed with the United Kingdom and Australia last year. The deal was worth over $40 billion and will see Australia using American nuclear-powered submarines in the Asia-Pacific region. But let's be honest here, it's just another clear example of the United States using its military. The big winner of AUKUS is once again not the smaller underdeveloped Pacific nations who actually need economic support, but rather America's military-industrial complex, who will make billions off of the deal. But enough about the military. Let's talk about trade. When it comes to economic trade in Southeast Asia, there are three key trade agreements. The first is the RCEP, which is the largest trade bloc in history, accounting for 30% of the world's population and 30% of the global GDP. Despite being the largest trade bloc in world history, the United States is actually not part of this deal, while China is actually at the center of the deal and the most important country involved. The second trade deal is the CPTPP, which China formally applied to join in September 2021. This trade organization is interesting because it includes both Mexico and Canada, but once again, no America. And the third and final trade agreement is of course China's own Belt and Road Initiative, which once again, America is not part of. In conclusion, China is the key player involved with all three major trade agreements in Southeast Asia, and the United States is not involved in a single one. Honestly, I think one of the major factors facing America right now is the US government is simply spread too thin. We maintain over 800 military bases around the world, and we just pledged another $40 billion to support Ukraine. Quite frankly, the United States simply can't afford to be the dominant regional player in Asia. British scholar Martin Jacques describes the reality of the situation. The United States is in disarray. Biden still has no economic plan for Asia. Its post-Soviet order in Europe is in tatters. It launched its assault on China without a strategy. Its economy is too weak for it to be the global hegemon. And China has replaced it as the key driver of global growth. 2 weeks ago, I made a video about the Solomon Islands and why they chose China over Australia. It was a major win for China and a move that sent Australian and American officials scrambling. As soon as the United States found out the Solomon Islands were meeting with China, the United States immediately sent Kurt Campbell, a senior White House official, to try to convince the Solomon Islands to not go through with the deal. But why would the Solomon Islands listen to America? The Solomon Islands is littered with unexploded bombs from World War II that America has still not cleaned up some 80 years later. But all of a sudden, here comes Kurt Campbell and new promises from the US government that they will set up and improve their relations with the Solomon Islands. To be honest, it was too little, too late, and exactly why the Solomon Islands chose China instead. They are tired of waiting on the United States and its allies like Australia to come through, especially when the dominant economic power in Asia, China, is willing to help. Since the security deal with the Solomon Islands went through, China has moved forward with talks with Kiribati, a Pacific island nation some 3,000 kilometers from Hawaii. China also signed a deal with Vanuatu on Friday to upgrade its major international airport. These deals go along with security deals that Beijing already has signed with Fiji and Papua New Guinea. Now that Biden has returned from Asia, it's China's turn to visit the region. Later this week, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi will bring a 20-person delegation to visit 7 countries in the region: the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea. The key date to watch is May 30th, when China's foreign minister will present a new agreement to the 10 small Pacific Island nations. This new agreement will cover everything from securities to fisheries and even include Chinese language scholarships for 2,500 students and additional funding to help combat COVID-19, promote health, and help these countries in their battle against climate change, which all of them consider the greatest threat to their future. In conclusion, it's been said that the 21st century is Asia's century, and the future economic growth that will drive the world economy will come from this region. I'm actually encouraged from the recent speech of Secretary of State Anthony Blinken when he spoke specifically about the future of US and China relations. Specifically, he stated that the United States does not seek to change China's government and that every country has the right to determine what type of government it uses. Many nations throughout the Asia-Pacific region will be choosing between the United States and China, but instead of seeing this as a zero-sum game with one winner and one loser, I think we need to work for more mutual agreements. I don't see why it's impossible for all of these nations to work with both the United States and China and realize that building a healthy relationship with the number 1 and number 2 economies in the world is certainly a good thing for everybody. Everybody, I want to thank you all for your continued support and make sure that you take advantage of this opportunity to learn more about art investing from Masterworks. Click the link down in the description to skip the wait list, get started, and see if this is something that would be good for the future of your portfolio. Everyone, my name is Cyrus Jansen. Thanks for spending time with me here on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you all in next week's episode.